You are now listening to Carlie's Couch.
I'm Carlie.
And I'm Lex.
In this podcast, we discuss a wide array of topics about life and how to live your best life.
Whatever that looks like for you.
Hope y'all enjoy. Where you spend your attention is where you spend your life. How are you spending yours?
Happy Monday. Thanks for listening and watching Carlie's Couch. We love that we have so many YouTube subscribers.
Yes, shout out to y'all. I got so excited.
Keep sharing the videos with people. Keep watching them. And also sharing the Apple podcast as well so we can have more subscribers on everything. But yes, to acknowledge Carlie's excitement, we do appreciate that you guys follow and subscribe to the podcast.
I am doing pretty wonderful today. I feel very peaceful and very productive this week. I had a good week. It's nice outside. I feel like it's very warm in LA today, and I feel like my mood matches the weather.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's easy to do, especially after it's been like a little bit rainy and gray, but not much because like in January was all the fires and things going on, and then it was kind of like murky outside and a little blah for wintertime. But hopefully everything is going to stay nice and sunny now. Shout out to West Coast, everybody else. Sorry if you can't relate. However, I will say I'm feeling pretty good as well. Things are going well. Just, nothing out of the ordinary.
And if you're not watching the video, you should, because Lexi looks super cute today.
Oh, thanks. Today we are talking about attention and why it's so important to recognize where you focus your attention. Because, of course, we know the saying, like, where your energy flows and your attention flows. What goes?
Is where your attention goes. That's where your energy flows or something?
Yeah, I'm mixing it all up.
Yeah.
Where your attention goes, your energy flows. And so it's so important to not be on autopilot and to be intentional about what you're doing, even when that is I'm relaxing and I'm chilling, right? Like hitting Carlie over here.
Attacking me.
That's okay, and it's still like intentional with your attention. And sometimes for me, I'll recognize I'm just like doing so much or spinning wheels in whatever way, and it's like, oh, but that actually wasn't a productive day. But you're tired, you're stressed, you're whatever, still from doing so much. So we're going to evaluate ourselves today. We're going to break down where our attention goes and if that aligns with our actual goals. Mm-hmm. The attention economy, we'll talk about what that is and how we're influenced by the world. And then 3, how to take back control and be more intentional with our time.
Yes. I actually have that quote by James Clear, where you spend your attention is where you spend your life, in a rotating one like on my phone. So it scrolled across and I was like, damn. Oh, am I being a good steward of my attention right now? And that's how we kind of got here to this episode.
So do you agree with that quote? Where you spend your attention is where you spend your life. I guess.
Yeah.
That's kind of obvious, right?
It would seem that way, right? But then we don't think about all the little things throughout the day that get our attention, and how if our life was a currency, then that is actually how we're investing those coins.
And I think what makes this quote interesting and something to pay attention to is like, yes, it sounds obvious. And the idea of like seeing it this way is like, oh, shoot, like what I'm doing right now, this is actually my whole life. So it kind of puts into perspective how big all of these little moments are when they're all added up together.
Yeah, and so the first step today is we're going to like look at our attention as a whole and kind of track that. So Lexi, would you say that if you looked at how you spend your time and your focus during the day, that it aligns with your priorities?
I would say it could align a little bit more. Yeah, actually it's off. It does not align on work efforts exactly, and it doesn't align on health/physical. Or maybe it could align a little more. Now, I don't think I'm too off, and I definitely feel like there's spaces where I know there's so much more that can be done.
Yeah, mine is similar in the sense that there are certain things I'm like knocking it out the park, and I'm very happy about that. Like health wise, I'm good, very, very intensive and very intentional about that. But I noticed myself like spending way too much time on my phone doing nothing. So like I feel like that's not intentional at all. That's a waste of time. And then to the point where I get distracted and forget what I was doing on my phone. And I'm like, that's not intentional. Yeah. And then also with my work, I realize I'm getting caught up more in the day to day and like what needs to happen right now versus the big picture. And I haven't been very intentional about that. So that would be a priority that I am missing.
Yeah. And similarly, lately I've recognized too, like exactly when I'm doing it. Like I'll be working on something and then you go to your phone for whatever. But lately I've been finding myself getting sucked in, which is weird that I don't get sucked into TikTok, but on Twitter, like, once you watch a video now, it flips to other videos if you flip. So I'll find myself like watching hella videos, or like I've said before, like on Instagram, I'll be watching hella dog videos and stuff. And it's like, I know I'm like this, I don't need to be doing this right now. And it's serving a whatever purpose. But that is a little much on that. So a question for all of you as well is think about your screen time. So we all get, iPhone users, I don't know what everybody else gets, but most people can see how they spend their time on their actual devices, right? We get that alert at the end of every week that says, here's how you spent your time. So if you looked at your phone right now, would you be happy with what that says? For me, I always am like, dang, it's a little bit too much on the social, because it'll be like, it's weird when you see the average per day. And it's like, if I'm spending 4 or 5 hours average on social every day, it's like, why am I also pressing myself, or like, why am I also like not as easily doing like 4 hours of work? Like, that's kind of sad. But I know it could be worse, but how do you feel about that? How your time thing looks?
Crazy. Every time I'm like, so I actually have put like limits on mine so that it pops up, and I've actually shortened those limits too. But yeah, I also like looking at it as a diary, like my bank account is a diary of like the food that I've eaten and the stuff that I've done. Like also that, I wouldn't want to show people that screen time thing. I know there's like, I have a lot.
But I bet there's such a huge variety amongst folks. So for the listeners, I'm interested to know what your screen time looks like as far as like for the week or a day. If you have like crazy big numbers or very low numbers, would be interesting to see as well. So Carlie, like in the last week or so, however long you want to say, but what would you say some of the last things that you remember putting not a lot of attention, but a deep attention to? And to me, deep attention is like you weren't distracted by everything else, but you were locked in.
I would say like working out, and exploring different movements. I have a lot of different clients who have different illnesses or different needs, and so I was like playing through some stuff to see what would be the best thing to help them, and then also taking care of myself. That's pretty consistent. I spent a lot of time making butters that I was excited about, but also researching, because I want to venture into a couple of other products. I've been trying to perfect them, so I spent a lot of time researching, but then also experimenting with new things. Read a book, and then I'll just say 4, but the 4th one is I like made these things, and I can't exactly tell you because I'm going to give you some for your birthday. But I was like learning how to make a thing because I wanted to make some things. And so I was like watching videos and then practicing and then trying to make the things. And so like learning a new thing.
So it sounds like it's easier for you to have a deep attention when it's something that you're interested in learning and looking at, which makes sense. Trying to think of what I could say I've given deep attention to lately. I've been putting a lot of deep attention into learning as well, learning and research with I don't know if it's not exactly a course, but like it was like a video series. I was like really, really paying attention there and locked in. So I guess that is interesting to say that, one key thing that we learn from where we put our attention is of what interests us and what keeps our attention, and maybe even what we're excited about. Because of course it's hard to focus in on work sometimes, or tasks that you don't necessarily want to do. And you're more likely to let yourself be distracted, or more likely to also, multitask or do other things while you're doing stuff that might not necessarily grab your attention.
Baby, because I let one of my certifications lapse last year, and for yoga and for wellness, you have to re-up like every so often, so I have to retake a test, and it is so hard, and I love wellness, and it's in the implications and doing it and being there with clients and being in the thing, but like rereading a lot of the stuff I already know, and I don't know everything, so I can always learn stuff and that, but it has been so hard to sit down and focus, and I'm like, oh, I don't even normally struggle with this.
Yeah.
But I have been like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I guess we got to think about, too, what that means when sometimes it's easier to focus on things than other times when it's things that maybe in general we don't usually have an issue with. I lately haven't been able to focus much on reading. Like I will take the book out like I'm about to read, and then I will literally like I set a space and then literally start doing other things, and then it's like, oh well, it's dark now on the balcony, so then I put the book up. Or I tried to start reading and I just a couple paragraphs in, I was like, I don't know what's when you're just fake reading, it's like I don't know what's happening, let me just put the book down. It was too many other things, and quite frankly it was some work stuff where I was like, in my head was like, I know I need to be doing this, is more important. But sometimes you'll tell yourself like, well, let me chill first and like center first and then go do my work. But really it's probably the other way around that I needed to do so that I can actually read the book. So I haven't been able to read much because everything else has been off. So it kind of could get offline or out of line in that way. Is there any one thing, if you had to choose something that you say to people is a priority, but actually if you looked at how you spend your time and your attention, you don't really give it that much attention?
I would say strategic business things. Like I'm doing the product part, like the fun part for me, but all the stuff that I know I really need to be doing to expand, I have not been doing.
Mm-hmm. And probably same because, like you said earlier, too, end up having me time. And so when I do work, a lot of times I am forcing myself to prioritize client tasks and things that need to be done right now, because now I got to get that done. And the things that are internal biz dev kind of just might slide along. And that's where you can spend, a few hours every day on that, along with the other stuff to keep yourself ahead. And I heard something, was it today or the other day? I heard something on some podcast I was listening to too, where they were kind of asking, like, for a lot of people, you may spend time and like you pray throughout the day, or you center yourself, or you go to the gym, or whatever it is, right? But then it's like, well, with some things, why are you not doing those daily like pieces of things, or like knowing what's going on in your bank account, knowing what's going on with the work, and looking at everything like that? And for me, I'm just like, man, it just feels like so much. Mm-hmm. And I also recognize that when your attention and your efforts are efficiently kind of laid out, it is such that you can do a little bit of stuff, every day or however often. And that probably makes more sense than like doing a bunch, then come back and trying to do a thing, and then you don't look at it for a while. And it just keeps you consistent on where you are. So definitely good to focus on the actual priorities. And for the listeners, if there's things you're saying that is so important, ask yourself that same question too, if that's something you're actually giving attention to.
Yeah, so you can stop spending time reacting or consuming and being taken up by day to day, so you can actually create and spend your energy where it matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we spend so much time reacting, and we were created to create, for sure. So that is a big space where if you could look at all your activities and be like, is this reactive or creative? That will show you how many steps forward you're actually taking in a day. Because all the reactive is not really moving so much. But it's the creative that's like a bigger step forward.
And so whenever I was like reading about this quote and kind of researching, I came across something with attention called the attention economy. And psychologist Herbert A. Simon actually coined the term attention economy and started describing attention as a limited resource, and how that, like, I think he did it in the, I don't want to say 70s or 80s or something, but he was talking about how his vision of the economy is, as it moves forward, is going to be a commodity. And so when we think about like our attention and it being part of the economy, that really is where we are right now.
Yeah, and then you'll see sci-fi movies or futuristic concepts. And one thing that I recognize is a common thread in most of them, like Minority Report, a few other types of movies as well, like Black Mirror type stuff, is this interesting thing where it's like they envision that in the future, it's just like ads are everywhere and like part of your life. So like one thing, I don't remember what show or what thing it was, but like the person wakes up and they have to watch a thing before they can like and like you get stuff from it. Like you have to watch a thing, then you do this, and then as you walk down the whatever, like everything is ads around you. And so these companies are 100% competing for your attention. Obviously, we see that. And there have been some marketing things that have changed over the years. Way back in the day, like they used to be able to do like subliminal type stuff, which is not allowed anymore. But quite frankly, like all the things that kind of go into the science of social media and commercials and advertising in general, they're really whooping our ass. Like they not playing around with like all this stuff works. So they're definitely competing for our attention because the longer you're looking at something, the longer you stay in a mode, the more money they make. So they have incentive to make things addictive and distracting and to take your attention.
It makes me think about the chip companies like doing all the scientific research on the perfect amount of crunch and the perfect saltiness to keep you eating all of the chips in the bag and the cookies and things like that.
And they spend millions on that, but they make billions back.
But it's the same thing when you think about our dopamine hits from liking something, like the instant gratification that we get when we post a picture and the notifications on our phone. So really looking at like this science that we're all kind of falling for or a part of. Yeah, and so for the listeners, I want y'all to ponder, like when was the last time you actually like consciously decided how to spend your attention? Like when's the last time you really sat down and decided, oh, I'm gonna paint this thing or play the piano or do whatever you're going to do? Like when is the last time? And then also how often does that happen in your life?
Yeah, because most of the time it seems like we're pulled into something, or you'll be doing something, but you didn't actually really make a decision, or conscious decision is the key word there. So pay attention to that. All right, let's talk about now how to take back control of our attention. Number one thing we can do is conduct an attention audit. This is basically going to be our homework later too, but literally track how and where you spend your time for a day or for a week. I think Harvest still exists, it's probably free. But that's one of the first things I remember years ago when I was just kind of feeling sad, like, bro, how am I using my time? Like, I feel like nothing's moving forward. And I started tracking my time, like how I was doing, like every single minute, and putting it in there. And then looking at the results, it's like, oh, no wonder I'm not satisfied, because looking at exactly how you spend your time is not really a matchup with what you say. A lot of times is important for you. So compare that to your prioritize. Compare it to your priorities and see, all right, what maybe needs to change. And that could just be like, all right, maybe I only watch like 2 shows a day instead of 6. Because that's what I'll look at too now. Where I'm like, all right, let me just only watch like 2 episodes and that's it of a thing.
And that brings us to our next thing. So after you conduct your attention audit, then you're going to set some boundaries. So once you see like, oh man, I'm watching too much TV, limit yourself to 2 episodes a day. You can also set time, like I'm not going to look at my phone until 9 a.m. because all those notifications mess up your dopamine and get you more addicted to your phone throughout the day. And then at night, it messes with your circadian rhythm. So maybe you stop looking at it at 9 p.m. and then go to bed at 11. You can also set app limits. I have them on pretty much everything. Well, like only the stuff I use, but like that makes sense. And then you can also do like a phone-free work day, or well, that's hard for people who have like Macs and stuff, but you can like try to get distractions out of your area when you're working, or if you're working out, you're not scrolling in between sets, or like setting better boundaries to be more intentional with your attention.
I tried to do the limits on apps as far as how much time I can spend on them, and or when I can't look at them, but they didn't really work well for me. But what I have done for a lot of the apps, like everything, definitely I took all the notifications off. I still pick up my phone and look at stuff all the time, but it's still not like I'm being like dragged into it. What I did is I started going through and just like straight up deleting a lot of apps. A lot of them I wasn't really using like that. And so I just deleted them. And as far as a distraction-free zone, one thing too, especially if your work is has any focus on social media, like mine does, for example, a good practice is to, even if when you're using social, like using it on a computer, because it's like, all right, I'm kind of like I'm like clocking in, doing the things that need to be done, and then get off of it. So like using the website platform version of it instead of like the pick up the phone every few minutes, that's automatic. One thing that can help you even recognize how many times you pick up your phone is if you like have it in another room, or I'll be feeling so ashamed when I'm like in the living room watching TV, and I'll like leave the phone in my room, and then as I'm watching, I'm like, dang, stuff I want to Google and this and that, and I'm always like, and like I keep reaching for nothing, and I'm like, dang, what a loser. Like, you can't stop reaching for nothing even though you know it's not there. And it's like, it lets you know like how much you want to look at your phone. It's so crazy. But doing those things really can put into perspective like how automatic you might be on those.
Yep. The next step after you do your intentional boundaries is to practice single tasking. You are not a good multitasker. You are not a good multitasker. I'll say it one more time. You are not a good multitasker.
Your brain hates it.
They
you
hate
think
it.
you like it, but your brain is so overwhelmed.
You're exhausted. You're just addicted to it and doing a bunch of things, and you don't like. You're trying to avoid boredom, which also when we're overstimulated, we lose curiosity, and curiosity is really part of the human experience and what keeps us creative. And so if you have been noticing a writer's block or an inability to create, it could be because you're overwhelmed. So multitasking makes you a lot more stressed, a lot less productive, and whenever you can start to build back up your focus skills by focusing on one thing at a time, like it starts to be able to, perforate other areas of your life.
Mm-hmm. And you'll find you do get more stuff done when it's like, all right, I'm doing this block task, and I'll maybe say, we've talked about Pomodoro method, but I'll maybe spend like 30 minutes or an hour, like, all right, let me just start the thing and say, this is what I'm going to do. As long as you do not check your emails during that time, right? Checking your phone, that's when you start seeing other things coming in and it might take you off. Just focus on the thing, because there's nothing, for the most part, probably, that's going to like be some crazy big thing like within that hour that you're spending on that. And again, this is another opportunity for you to recognize how often your brain wants to like pull you away from it and distract you from it. Lastly, align your attention with your values. So we've already talked about challenging if where you put your attention aligns with your values. So here, when you're doing things, just ask like, all right, does this align with the life I want? I guess slightly related, but not exactly in the same. When it comes to the activities I'm doing or the food I want to order or eat, I just kind of reframe in my mind, like, all right, what would a healthy person do? And that could be like mentally healthy, all the things. It's like, what would a healthy person do? They would sit down and do this thing. Or healthy person would cook this instead of ordering that. So think about that person that you are moving into and ask questions that will serve that person to see how you can shift slightly. And we'll kind of talk about that a little more later as well.
Yeah, I like the idea of asking yourself, is this what a healthy person would do? Is this what a successful person does? Is this what ideal version of Carlie does? Is this, and so always making sure you're in alignment and just being honest with yourself. I think it requires reflection, but also a lot of honesty and not a lot of judgment. You can just change it. Like, you're still alive. You have the option to change right now with the things that you're doing. And so this week, we're going to challenge you to do a 24-hour attention audit. So you're writing down every single thing that you're giving your attention to throughout the day, and then thinking about what's one small change that you can make to be intentional or more intentional with your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just one small change. When you look at how you spent that day, be like, okay, maybe I'm going to do a little more of this, a little less of that, and what that looks like. Putting your phone away, locking in a little bit better, etc. So do that this week. Let us know how it goes. Tag us on everything at Carlie's Couch. Leave a comment on YouTube, on the post, wherever you see our content. And then just remember this week as a takeaway to think about how you're spending your time. Let's spend it wisely. Let's give our attention to the places where we actually want to grow. We could do more than just put money into other people's pockets. We got to put money in our own pockets with our own attention, because your attention is your most valuable resource. So we hope you enjoyed this episode today, and I'm glad that it was a part of your